Already?
Yep.
Cool. Well, hey, good morning. What's going on? It's the Hot Seat with Dave Bever here on QFM 96. Good morning to you. Today we got a special show lined up. We're going to be talking about the greatest art. Is it a Michelangelo? I don't know who your favorite artist is, but I'm going to talk today with an artist. And we're going to talk about the greatest art ever known, the greatest martial art ever known as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Today, my special guest is Professor Dave Freetage from Grove City Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Grove City, Ohio. It is a phenomenal gym. It is one of the most recognized gyms in all of Central Ohio and beyond. We're going to be talking about this incredible art today. So get ready for a great show. I don't care if you're 4, 40, or 90. I promise you, there is something you are going to love about today's show, and it's never too late to start. We're going to go to break right now. When we come back to the Hot Seat with Dave Bever, we'll see you in a few.
Deep breath. Whenever you guys want to roll.
Ready. Well, good morning. You're back here on the Hot Seat with Dave Bever, QFM 96. Great to hear and see you guys today. Or maybe I said that wrong. It's great to have you hear us today. Since we can't see you, it is radio after all. Hey, I'm here today with Dave Freetage. Dave Freetage is not only the owner, but the professor at Grove City Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Dave, what's going on this morning, man?
I'm good. How are you, Dave?
Doing great, doing great. I titled the show this morning, The Greatest Art Ever. And I know when someone hears that, they're going to be thinking painting, they're going to think abstract, They're going to think music. But the reality is we know there's a variety of martial arts. But for me, I would say if I had to choose one martial art for anyone to learn or my kids to learn, I would always say Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I say that someone who didn't even start it till they were 39 years old. And now I'm only 40 by a few months, so I'm pretty terrible still at jiu-jitsu. But Dave, tell us a little bit about jiu-jitsu, man. When did you get started? Tell us a little bit about your journey starting in jiu-jitsu.
Sure. I'm 42 years old, so about the same age as you, and like a lot of folks our age, I actually saw the UFC. I saw UFC 1, and at that point I'm like, man, I have to learn this. I have to see what it is. But there really wasn't anything close. I grew up in Grove City. There was nothing really close to us, so I started with Muay Thai, kickboxing at that time. Started getting into Muay Thai, fighting a little bit, really enjoyed it, but I still wanted to explore the jiu-jitsu side of it. And eventually I met Robin Giesler, who owns Health and Gracie North up in Westerville, and started training under him back in, oh my goodness, it's been the late 90s now, and mid 90s, whatever. So I started training with Robin back then. Before that, I'd done some no-gi, just grappling from different things I learned, but nothing really formal at the gym I was at. So after I met with Robin, started my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu journey, and pretty much just fell in love with that on top of everything else that I was doing already.
Yeah, that's awesome. Dave, he said he's 42, and I'm 40, and so here's the deal. Dave is 42 and has a black belt. I have a one-stripe white belt. And but the journey of Jiu-Jitsu is I think is a beautiful thing. It's something that you can't rush through, and this is one thing I always talk about, Dave, in the gym there in Grove City particular, is everything is earned. Nothing is given. You know, this is not a gym that you go in, you pay your membership fee each month, and they bump you through the ranks. Like, there's incredible athletes in there who maybe if they were in another gym, they might pay their dues and pay their money, I guess, and get extra stripes or belts, but literally, the thing that separates Grove City Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from so many other academies is it is a true academy. And there is such love and respect for the art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that every student in there, they earn what they get. You know, the instructors there. Talk a little bit about that and the holistic nature of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and how's the sport changed from the time you started till now? What are some good changes or bad changes?
Sure, there's a lot right there to be said.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the changes first. Rules, changes, weight classes, everything like that. I mean, my first jiu-jitsu competition, if I remember right, was probably, I think 97 was the first time I stepped on the mat to compete in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And everybody pretty much had the same gi back then. It was all those big, oversized, like tiger claw, white gis. That's what we had there, basically judo gis back then. The rules were really no fish hooking, no eye gouging, go. There were some points, of course, but you might have a tournament maybe that hit your town once a year
Yeah.
You know, even regionally, once a year regionally, so you had to drive. To whereas now, you know, in Columbus, we'll have tournaments, you know, 5, 6, 7 times a year itself. So that changed. Just getting more professional with it, more structured. As far as like earning the ranks and such, when I came up through the times, and even now, you know, being on GF team under Vitor Oliveira, everything is earned. And it's easy in jiu-jitsu as opposed to other martial arts because you have to prove yourself on the mat every day. It's one of those things like jiu-jitsu, wrestling, you know, boxing, kickboxing. You can actually go, you can spar 100%. So you know who's good, who's not, what works and what doesn't. So nothing can be given to you because if I give you a belt, if I give you the first belt's a blue belt, if I give you your blue belt and you're not a blue belt, you're going to go and get your butt kicked all the time by everybody because they're going to try to test you to see if they're a blue belt yet, if they're worse than you. You know, if they're better than you, they're going to make sure that you earn that blue belt. So it's the only art I think where, or one of the only arts where you actually have to be able to prove yourself. Yeah. You know, with the exception of, you know, size and strength do play some into it, age also. I'm getting older, so I can say that. But that does play into it also. But still, even then, the better you get, you're going to be able to defend yourself for those certain amounts of time, even against the younger, bigger, stronger, more athletic guys. So that does mean something too. I think that's why the art itself is so valuable, because you don't have to necessarily dominate, but you can survive and not get beat up per se. So.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what I love about it. You know, Dave, you weigh about 165 pounds. There's guys in the gym, gals in the gym, they might weigh 135, 145, and because they have that, their art is so good. I always tell people, like, man, I weigh 195 pounds. You can get a 145-pound person on top of you that understands the art of jiu-jitsu, and their pressure is so good. They feel like they're 250 pounds. Yeah. You can barely move them. And they're not, and here's what's always frustrating to me. They're exerting no energy. Like, you look at them, they're breathing calm, they're smiling. You're down there working hard, frantic. And that's why I say it's such an art. It's the best art ever because, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is really designed, you know, if you had a much larger attacker attacking a smaller female or a smaller, you know, male or child, again, the joint manipulation, the inability to breathe, all of a sudden you can defend yourself much differently than if you're standing up trying to have a power contest or even, you know, throwing simple punches or kicks. A lot of times you can get overwhelmed by the bigger, stronger, dominant person. But in jiu-jitsu, you know, I always say this, you know, in grappling, space is not your friend. You want to take that space away, and it's amazing to me to see some of these younger guys, some of our students, our teenagers, you know, man, I see them submitting grown men, right? And they're much smaller, but they trust their jiu-jitsu. They're not trying to overpower. They use their brain and they use their skill, and it's amazing. Let's talk about weight classes for a minute. Was there a time jiu-jitsu, like, when the tournaments were open and you didn't have weight classes? I was thinking, like, you know, in our gym, you know, the infamous Joe Riddle is fat. You know, I mean, that is a Columbus statement. I've seen it on bathroom walls, billboards. I think I've heard it in movies in Hollywood. So think of Joe, and Joe's somewhere right now. He's going to hear this, and I won't roll with Joe for 2 months because he'll try to kill me. But think about that. You know, was there ever a time there was just kind of open tournaments where weight doesn't play a factor? How did that play out?
Yeah, I mean, I've been to tournaments before, again, early on, we're talking 20 years ago now, where you would show up and they would just kind of look at you and say, okay, well, the small guy's over here, the big guy's over there. Yeah. So that did happen, and you might be outweighed by 30, 40, 50 pounds, and just because you were in the smaller guy category. And back then, I probably weighed 140 pounds. So, you know, absolutely, I was way in the small category. But then there might not be enough people. So they say, okay, well, everybody's together today. Yeah. Let's put everybody, you know, let's put all the higher belts in this bracket here. So that stuff used to happen. It's a smaller, more local tournaments. Yeah, they would combine weight classes and such. So very difficult. Weight classes are there for a reason. When you talk about, you know, you mentioned a smaller, weaker person be able to control a larger person. And it's absolutely true as far as untrained. You know, a person who's a good high school wrestler, a good jiu-jitsu guy, they're going to be able to control most people. But even knowing just a little bit, you can control most people because they don't know how to fight on the ground. You can get your takedown, take them down, use your leverage, you know, and control them. But weight classes are there for a reason, because when skill gets more equal, that strength and size do matter for sure.
It's huge. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about Grove City Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Let's talk about the academy itself, where it's located, and a lot of what was offered there. Now, the reason I say that is I think there's probably a bunch of men, 30s, 40s, and women, 30s, 40s, maybe even in their 50s, that, maybe they watch, some grappling, or they hear about it and they go, man, I really wish I'd have done that when I was younger. But just to talk about, like, when I say it's never too late to start, it really is never too late to start. Like, the gym has all ages, from young kids all the way to senior adults. So let's talk a little bit about the gym, what the gym offers, a variety of the programs.
Sure.
And why you think it's great for no matter who you are listening.
Sure. The gym itself, we start at age 5. So our kids program starts at 5, and we go to 14. And at 14, we start to transition to our adult classes. We split our little kids up too. So my 5-year-olds aren't the same class as my 14-year-olds or anything like that. My middle son is 6 years old, and he trains. He started training at about 5 years old. I brought him in the gym. He wanted to come in because Daddy goes in, and he loves it. Last Thursday, I couldn't make it to the gym, and I had to have my dad take him because he was crying because he couldn't go. So he fell in love with it, which is pretty cool. But my oldest student right now is 60.
Yeah.
Bill Sensen just turned 60, and I wanted to mention him because he went to the World Championships. We call them Old Man Worlds. It's called Master Worlds technically, but he went to Old Man Worlds and he took second in Worlds.
That's awesome.
In the 55 to 59-year-old class, because there was no one in his class in 60. So that's pretty cool. 60-year-old, he's out there, and the cool thing about that is a new guy comes in off the street. Bill walks over, shakes his hand. Hey, how you doing? My name's Bill. Do you want to roll?
Yeah.
And he's working out with the 20-year-olds, which is awesome, and it keeps him fit and in shape. But I have a whole slew of people who are close to our age, Now, most of my competitors, my fighters, of course, my pro MMA fighters and stuff like that, those guys are younger. Yeah. But, I have a whole slew of guys who are in their 40s, Doug Jones just won. He took second at Worlds 2 years in a row at brown belt, 48 and 49 years old. So, and he just turned 50, and he's a competition stud. So,
he
absolutely.
sweats a lot too. He sweats a lot.
He does sweat an awful
You roll
lot.
with Doug, you will
gross.
be sweaty
It's
with
gross.
Doug's sweat.
It's like a sweat shower. It's gross.
It's horrible.
But yes, any age really. My teenagers, when they get in there, if they get in there at that age, 12, 13, 14, they're like sponges. They pick it up and they get good so fast. It's incredible to watch them, And you mentioned earlier, you're exactly right. The kids who are that age at 12, 13, 14, 15, they don't really have the quote-unquote man strength yet to be able to hang with the adults, but they routinely will tap adults if they've been there for a couple of years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I love about it. And then just as a testament, I go there, and going there, one thing that I love about it is the gym atmosphere. What I mean by the gym atmosphere is it is family oriented. Mm-hmm. It does not matter your age, man, woman, single, married. It is a place that is, it is a respected place. And when you come in there is respect that is given. One thing we joke about, and I tell a lot of jokes like, dude, I'm just a terrible white belt. I was thinking about coming to maybe that 5, 6, 7-year-old class as a white belt. I'll be subbing everybody in there, man. Maybe not. I might go and get choked by some children. But the truth is there is just such a camaraderie. And no matter who you are, whether you have never ever put on a gi, you've never wrestled, you've never done any martial arts, I would tell you to consider taking a look at it. If you always wanted to do it, then do it. Don't sit around living life with regrets. If you always wanted to do it, it's not too late. Get over to Grove City Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's right there on Hoover Road, right there at the kind of real close to the corner of Stringtown and Hoover. It's a phenomenal experience. I always tell people this: I come very humble and hungry, and I always leave humbler and hungrier. And that's what I love about the journey, because you're learning. You learn about yourself. You learn about others. The highest ranked belts, the black belts in there, to the other brand new guys in there, men and women alike, everybody is so team oriented that you're always gaining knowledge from someone in there. And that's what I love. I've been to some MMA gyms. I have a little bit of background in MMA. I've officially been choked unconscious in a cage. I'm just saying. Not everybody can say they've done that before. But in that, though, I've been to some gyms, I've cross-trained at some gyms where you go in and it's just, it's like who's going to be the big dog in the room and who's the toughest. And I call them gym wars. You end up in all these gym wars, and it's not fun. It's not a good environment. You come into a gym like Grove City Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, are we going to work hard? Absolutely. Are there stud athletes in there? Absolutely. Are there undefeated pro fighters in there? Absolutely. But they treat every single person with dignity, respect. And Dave, that shows the culture of that gym is created by your leadership, yours and your other instructors, that they have set the mantle high of respect given and respect that is also earned. And I know as a student, I've appreciated that greatly. It's a phenomenal place. And seriously, I think if you're a mom or dad out there, I always used to joke around and say there's three things my kids are going to know how to do. They're going to know how to read and study the Bible. They're going to know how to swim. They're going to know how to fight. Because all three of those things are good tools to have in life. If you can swim, read the Bible, and fight, you got a shot in this world, right? But it'd be great to get your kids out there, man.
You know, I think one of the things you talked about, atmosphere, is something we really drive home, especially with our staff. I remember the first day I walked in a gym in 1994. I remember walking in a gym the first time, and I was terrified. I didn't know what I was going into, what I was getting into at all. And I remember that atmosphere. And I remember not knowing if I wanted to go back the next day. Like, man, I'm not sure about this. But I kept going. And eventually kind of, immersed myself into training. But I remember walking in that first day, and I still had that conversation with people. When you walk in the first day, how is it to come in the door? And they say, that's the hardest part, is walking in the door the first time. And so we want to make everybody feel comfortable. I did my gym model a little differently than most. Most gyms are in big warehouses. A lot of them are stuffed in the back corner of industrial parks and things like that because you need the space. I'm actually in a retail location.
Yeah.
So you pull up, it's well lit. You have a parking lot where you can get into easy. And it was just a different atmosphere right away walking in than what it is going into a dark warehouse. So that right there kind of sets it apart. Then we have staff. I want the staff to go up and greet people and talk to them. I mean, like you said, I've cross-trained at gyms before. I've walked in and I've stood at the front door and waited for 10 minutes and no one comes up and spoke to me. So I've been there, done that, and I definitely didn't want my place to be like that.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. And again, as a testimony, it is not. It is very warm and inviting to anyone, whether it's your first day or you've been training for years. It's a phenomenal environment. And we're going to take a quick break here from some of our sponsors. You're listening to The Hot Seat with Dave Bever this morning. We are so pumped to have you. We'll be right back.
So we got about, let's say, 10 minutes to fill.
Perfect. We're going to get into the Bridgeway stuff right now.
Yep.
Hey, welcome back to The Hot Seat with Dave Bever. We got our special guest, Dave Freetage, Professor Dave Freetage from Grove City Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on the show today. We've been talking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We've been talking about all the benefits. Never too late to start. Get your kids there. I would tell you right now, if you have ever thought about putting your kid in something that will not only help them form good character, help them form some good qualities, and also, some self-confidence, get them over to Grove City Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They start as early as 5, and it is something that I believe not only, here's what's really cool. I saw a dad taking his kid in there about a year ago, and then we were at an event that we're going to talk about here in a minute, last year, a fundraising event. The dad said, I think I'm going to start going. I walked in the gym about a month ago, and there he was. He'd been going ever since and getting really good. That event that I want to talk about last year was called the 100-Round Challenge. And Dave, I want to spend the rest of our time talking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the Bridgeway Academy. I want you to tell us a little bit more about Bridgeway Academy. You do an annual fundraiser through the gym, and multiple other gyms jump in, and athletes. Let's talk about the Bridgeway Academy, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for Bridgeway. Tell us what's going on and how we can get involved in that.
Gotcha. Oh, Bridgeway Academy. Well, my oldest son, Tyler, diagnosed on the autism spectrum. I believe he was probably 2 or 3, so very young. And we were looking for schools for him at that point. So he's nonverbal still, and he's 11 now. So we're looking for schools, and eventually we found Bridgeway. It's one of the top schools in the country. And we're lucky to be graced with it here in Central Ohio. So it's right here in Columbus. So Bridgeway Academy is a nonprofit. So they survive off funding, and I was like, man, is there a way I can help them out? I'm not a rich guy. How can I do this? So it's been now 4 years ago. I was like, let's do something fun. And the good thing about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu people is most of these guys, a lot of them were former wrestlers in high school and stuff. So they got these big hearts. They don't act like it. They're kind of tough guys, but they have these big hearts, and so they're like, hey, this is a great idea. So I came up with this idea for a fundraiser. So 4 years ago, I said we're gonna do a 24-hour challenge.
Yeah.
So for 24 hours. And I'm dumb, and I said, I want to be on the mat for 24 hours straight. I want to do this for 24 hours. Well, I made, I think, 63 rounds, 63 5-minute rounds, which is equivalent to like 8 hours. I don't know, something like that. Not even that long. I don't know. Anyhow, I got cramps, the worst cramps I ever had in my life, and I was done for the day at about 5 p.m. Started at 9, I was done at 5. So the rest of the time, I just kind of the administrator. And I determined that was probably too hard for myself or anybody else to do. So the second and third year, I came up with these 100-round challenges, which is you have 24 hours to complete 100 rounds, 100 5-minute rounds. And it was successful. It went really well. We raised a lot of money for Bridgeway Academy each of those 2 years. And I didn't want the event to get stale. So this year, I changed it, and we're calling it the Ironman 25. So what the Ironman 25 is you have to do 25 5-minute rounds consecutive.
Yeah.
So it's pretty brutal if you're making it as a sprint as opposed to a big 100-round marathon. So it's going to be pretty brutal for the guys doing it. Essentially, it's like 2.5 hours straight of rolling. But what I did was I also challenged everybody who's coming in to try to raise their own funds, to get sponsors per se for their rounds and to come in and do it. And right now I have like 45 to 50 people signed up to do the event.
Phenomenal.
But the cool thing is that, they come from every gym here in Central Ohio and throughout Ohio. I got people coming from all over for this. But even cooler than that is some people say, hey, I know I can't make 25 rounds, but I'm going to come in. I'm going to jump on the mats with you, help you guys roll a little bit, and I'll donate some money. We have a silent auction that goes on also during this. And this year, my goal is to raise $9,000.
Yep.
It's a pretty ambitious goal, but because overall, through the 4 years, this could be where we make a $50,000 total.
Nice.
With I had corporate sponsors a couple of years, things like that. So we would achieve $50,000. We're at 41 now, so I get to 50,000 if I get to 9,000 total this year. So we're pushing on the event. Easy way to donate for people if they're looking for it too is to get on Bridgeway's website. Bridgeway. I'm sorry, let me pull it up there. My phone just died on me. BridgewayOhio.org, and they have a donate button on there, and you can donate directly to them. So it doesn't have to go through our event to me.
Yeah.
If you want it to go through our event, you can put Ironman on the notes, and it goes right in there. So
it's awesome. Bridgeway Academy, right here in Central Ohio. It is a phenomenal school for children and support systems to families who have children with autism. And this is great, Dave. I got to be part of the 100-round challenge last year. I will literally say this: it was physically the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Mm-hmm. I'm a pretty resilient person, and I never wanted to quit something so bad in my life. I literally, when I got to round, and this was way late in the event, but I got to round like 71, and I was like, I physically didn't feel like I could do anymore. Right. And you pressed through it. You felt great. Now, when I woke up the next day, I was exhausted. I was like, man, it took me a week to recover. But but the bigger picture in that was not just how hard it was for the people. So many people. I mean, at one point in time, I think it was like 400, 500 some odd people that come throughout the course of the day. It was actually cool. That's where Doug Jones got his black belt there after coming back from Worlds. But to know and to see, this is what my heart just loves. To know and see so many people come out to support others, other stories, other situations, other families, so that these kids can learn and be in learning environments that are designed specifically for them, to empower them, to comfort them, and that's huge, man. And again, that just shows the character of your gym. It's not just your son. It's you understand the sons and daughters of many families that need a place like Bridgeway and have leveraged.
One of the cool things that happened throughout this event also was, as I publicized it on Facebook and such, the amount of people who reached out to me and said, my son also has autism, or my brother, or my cousin, whatever, and they felt like an ownership towards this, to help also with this event. So I've gotten a lot of folks who've really jumped in, head first, helping with the event just because they're personally affected by autism also.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And we want to thank you for coming on the Hot Seat with Dave Bever. You guys have been listening to the Hot Seat with Dave Bever. You have heard from Dave Freetage today. He's a professor at Grove City Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Hey, get out, take your kids over there, get to a class, give it a shot. I promise you, you will fall in love with it, and you will realize that you can be part of something bigger than yourself. And we even talked about at the end, not that it's the most or the least important thing. It's actually the most important thing we probably talked about today is serving others. Literally taking your life. Do you understand? No matter who you are today, and I really want you to lean in. I try to make my last 2 to 3 minutes kind of the driving point. No matter who you are today, no matter how you feel about yourself or your situation, I want you to know, every human being out there, you have the power and the ability to be a blessing to someone. I promise you there's someone that is looking to you, looking up to you, And there are many people that loved you and people that love you. Even sometimes we don't feel like we love ourselves or feel proud of ourselves. Someone out there believes in you. They love you. They care for you deeply. And you can use all those gifts and graces that you have, your platform, your influence, your finances. Sometimes just the simple thing like giving someone a smile, a fist bump, a handshake, or a hug can change the course of someone's life. If you are interested, I want to challenge you. If you own a business, if you say, hey, I'm not really interested in jiu-jitsu, that's okay, but you care about people, would you please go to Bridgeway, Ohio, check out their website, Bridgeway, or contact Dave at Grove City Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and make a donation. We want to raise $9,000. Hey, help us get there before the event ever happens through our generosity, our love, and our care for others. I am so proud to call these men and these women at Grove City Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu my brothers and sisters. The other thing I love about jiu-jitsu mats, there is no discrimination. Literally all walks of life, all beliefs, all circumstances come together, and there is unity on the mats of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's a great place where the world comes together, a great place to build relationships, and even make a huge difference in a place like Bridgeway. Hey, Dave, thanks for coming on the show today. Thank you guys for listening. We will see you next week on The Hot Seat with Dave Bever. Let's go.